In this video, I'm going to tell you about a project that we do at the beginning of grade 8, where we have the students study a small ecosystem that they create. So that ecosystem's a small terrarium, just an enclosed plastic container, and they have to put in the different resources that are needed for whatever they end up capturing and keeping in that terrarium. There are obviously some restrictions, but most of the time they capture small insects, sometimes different types of centipedes, or even as much as a salamander, that we have them monitor really closely, obviously, and make sure that they're providing with enough food to be able to survive. The ultimate goal is that whatever they put in there has to survive and thrive. So while we're doing this project, we used to have the students record daily observations. Every single day, this would be done on a piece of paper, and they would draw what they see, they would write about what they see, and then they would keep this all in a binder. And then at the end of the project, they could go back and they could look at the pictures and observations that they've made. But we found that it was really difficult to have students do that. The challenging thing working with boys is that they often lose a lot of their papers, and they don't keep track of things. They don't write dates. They don't think about keeping things in good form to be able to read necessarily later. So this year, for the first time, we actually used Google Sites to maintain daily observations. And in this video, I'm going to show you some of my students' daily observations. I'm going to have a student video that explains how to make the observations to the students if you want to view that for your own understanding of how to post on Google Sites for the terrarium. But if you keep watching this one, you'll see some of the examples that I have from my students' work this year. So we gave the students a template to follow where they had to list information about the creatures they captured, do a little bit of research on them and include that, and also include information about where exactly they captured this creature so that they could replicate that location within their terrarium. So this is one student's site, just to give you an idea of what they did. He's got information here on the creatures that he researched. It looks like there were snails, or not just the ones he researched, but he captured, and he has them actually, you can see a picture in the picture here. He's got them inside of his terrarium there in a photo. He's included capture information and other things that have been added to his terrarium. And then further down here, he's got it organized into his daily observations. So he's got his pictures, he's got his information about each day, more photos taken as you move down. And we don't require the boys to do a lot of measurement in the first few days, but as they move further and further on in the observations that they're making, they start to record information such as temperature, which you can see he's listed here on day 7, the classroom temperature compared to their terrarium temperature, and then they continue to make these observations as they go along. They begin to start to measure the soil pH, and he's got all that information recorded here along with some photos that he's taken using the microscope to try and get some closer observations of some of the items within his terrarium. One of the other advantages of using Google Sites is that anybody can access the students' work, at least anybody that they've shared it with. So I have my students share their work with their parents, share their link, their site with their parents, and then the parents can access it. And the reason I wanted to show you this site is that as the student was taking pictures of his insects, one of the things you'll notice is actually his mom starts to comment down here on his work. And so a little exchange happens, even to the point that she ends up explaining to him that he has a spelling error in his title. So it allows the parents to see exactly what their kids are working on without them having to open their child's binder or have their child say, oh, I left it at home. Basically, anybody has access to it in real time. I want to show you this student's page, Stanford. He had a lot of photos that he took, and he had some very detailed daily observations. He followed pretty closely the template that we gave the students to work from, and he copied and pasted that template and then used his observations in the table that was provided. So here you can see on his first day, he's got his initial photo. He explains the different layers of his terrarium. And then he includes the information when he does capture the different insects that he has captured. Further down, and I'll just scroll a little bit here. Again, some more of his captures all at the start. When he gets, there's his snails, beautiful picture. And when he gets further down, he starts to include this table. This was the table I was referring to before, where he starts to record his temperatures, his pH, his producers, consumers, and decomposers within his terrarium. Talks about the different changes and interesting observations that he made, and then goes on to do the same thing every single day. Same sort of photos, same detailed information as you can see here on his data tables. I'm just going to scroll all the way down to the bottom because one of the things that is most interesting from Stanford Sites, one of the things that's most interesting from his site is that I never really thought about what the students might think of to do with their observations. But what Stanford did was one day he decided to use his phone to create a time-lapse video. And so then what he did was he posted the time-lapse video of his snail onto his site. So I'm going to play this for you just so you can sort of see what he decided to do and then incorporate into his observations. And so it was a really neat idea that Stanford had to make this time-lapse video. It was early on of us working on Google Sites, but I'm hoping to incorporate more of these observations next year when the students are working on their terrarium project.